Hey everyone, this is Jeff saying the right. This is the live Tuesday call, and this is a cool call today because we're sitting here, and one of my good clients, Jenny, called in, and then another one of my group clients, John, called in, and we're just sitting here talking and laughing, and all of a sudden it was like 10 after 12, and no one else was called into the Tuesday call, and I just kind of said to them like, hey, you guys want to take an advantage of kind of this extra time and kind of have an open dialogue, open group mentoring, if you will, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I said, hey, and let's record it just to see, what comes up, because obviously when we hear things that other people are going through, and you might be in a similar situation, and it might inspire you to kind of work through it as well. So we're just going to kind of go with it. And also I wanted to role model as a coach that, sometimes when we do things, we have a call, we have an event, whatever, and maybe no one shows up, or maybe one or two people show up, and you were hoping for 10 or 20 or whatever. It's like, you know what? The call goes on, the show goes on, and do the event. If no one had called in today, I would have done something. I would have recorded something and put it out there. So I think it's really important for us to understand that, in this business, it's not always glamorous, and it's not always like, oh, we've got so many people calling in, and it's crazy, and the seats are always sold out. That's not always the case, but you can always turn those things into opportunities, and it's those opportunities that can lead into, connecting with new people, and who knows what will come as a result of this. So with that being said, I'm going to skip everything else and welcome Jan, welcome John, and let's do this. Let's just be casual. Let's give me a feel. I mean, obviously I'm working with the both of you, so I have an idea of where you both are. But let's just do some open group mentoring and just give me what questions might you have, and let's see where we go.
What does a coach do when they feel in transition? I'm in transition right now, coming off of one life event into coming back home and ramping up my business again. Transition is an emotional time as well as a professional time. So what are your words of wisdom about that?
Yeah, so and you're saying like your specific transition obviously is being away for a while and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know what? I have a lot of other clients right now too that, and John, because we're in the group coaching together, and people are, they're moving, family members are passing away. It's summertime, right? Summertime could be a transition. Kids going to school, for the first time. Jenny, on your end, on the opposite end, when your kids grew up and they left the house, right?
Yeah.
Empty nester, so it's. Any of that can be considered a transition, and I think that's a place to. I did something. I think I did a call on that last week. How to stay focused, how to stay disciplined. And honestly, that stuff's always going to come up. And I've gone through a lot of transitions in my life. As a business owner, and the one thing that I found is that entrepreneurship never stops. It's always there. It's always waiting for you. So if you're not, staying consistent with especially your marketing activities and your follow-up activities, then you're gonna feel like you're falling behind, and you will fall behind, especially when you're newer to the business and you don't have many years under your belt and an audience. If you disappear for a week or two and you have an audience that you've built up for a while, it's not necessarily the end of the world. But if you don't really have anybody, or you just hit or miss here and there, you're never really going to get any traction. So, my biggest recommendation for, those transitions is just whatever's going on. Obviously, we want to honor what's happening. Gosh, a death in the family, or, whatever, serious stuff like that. It's hard. It's hard to stay in the game. You're emotionally challenged and drained and exhausted. So, within those situations, it's just honoring where you're at, but recognizing what can I do? Maybe there are other things in your life that are taking more of your time than usual. That's cutting into your business time. But just, I would say, find the schedule, modify what you need to modify. I sent an email out last night, at 9:45 p.m. Eastern time, and I think Jenny, you were talking about that when you called in today, right? And it's I've been taking some Fridays off, some Mondays off, and it's whoa, things are changing. So it's I need to modify my hours. So it's adapting with that, but it's it's remaining consistent by adapting your schedule so that you have pieces of you have those business hours still there. And that's the biggest piece to it, is that if you don't do it, you don't do it, but you're going to feel the effects of it. And it's just those hours that you have, even if they're a lot less, it's just like having those and maintaining those are going to help you feel better about your business. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're still doing some things, and the second thing as I say that is take note or become conscious of your expectations. Some people don't change their expectations around their business, and now that I'm traveling or I'm on vacation or you fill in the blank that there'd be a transition with, my regular expectations when I was, quote, working hard on my business and really moving forward, well, I still kind of have those. So then the transition, if you will, is over, and I'm back doing my thing, and now all of a sudden it's a month or it's 2 months later, and then all of a sudden I get mad at myself because, I said I'd have 5 clients by now, or I said I'd have this done by now, and I haven't. But I never changed my expectations or my goals because with this transition. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So now I'm frustrated and disappointed at myself, and I cause myself more, emotional challenge. So now I'm more paralyzed, or I don't do anything because I'm in that, raw space. But it's like, well, of course you are. You just took 2 months off, or you just, you barely did anything in the last whatever months or weeks or days. So I think it's managing the expectations, and then really being disciplined with your schedule, because at the end of the day, like I said this to one of my group mentoring clients last week or a week before that. I said, hey, they hadn't been doing anything on their business. And I'm like, well, if you had a job right now, what would have happened? They're like, I probably would have been fired. I'm like, yeah, you would have been, so, but no one's firing you with your business. So it's being able to think like that and say, like, even though I'm in a transition and things are going on and I might be feeling X, Y, and Z or not have any gusto or motivation or whatever, or I'm things are a lot more expected of me, what if this were a job? You can only take so much vacation time, right? You can only call in sick so many days. It's often hard to do that because there's no boss threatening to fire us. But sometimes it's those mindsets that give us the discipline to forge forward.
And it's like what we were saying before, is giving yourself permission that it's different at this moment, so keep your power tools intact the best you can, but also to know that it's different, and that for me it's to not beat myself up that I'm not getting the traction I want when I'm focusing on more of what the family issues are or what needs to be done in a different aspect of my life.
Absolutely. And like for you, like especially, coming back, 'cause I know you well from our work together, and it's like you've been gone out of the country for 3 weeks, right?
5, yeah.
5 weeks, right? Yeah. So it's like, that's a long time. And now you're just coming back, and you said you've been maintaining your clients and stuff, but you've got to take into account for that. It's a big adjustment.
Yeah. One of the things was staying present for me. I needed to stay present in the moment. I was in Europe as a decision to support my husband because that's where his family is. And so I had to keep telling myself, you made this decision to be here. Now stay in the moment, stay present, keep the business going, keep thinking, keep being motivated. Even when your life is upside down, you don't speak the language, you don't know the people, you don't know the area. When everything was in turmoil, it was best to just stay present and show up. Just show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
John, I'm curious how this resonates with you.
Yeah, it's bringing up a bunch of stuff, and I love the conversation, Jeff and Jan, because resetting expectations and things like that is pretty big. And Jeff, you and I have talked about how I'm in this full-time job right now as I'm trying to grow grow my coaching business. And, as I was sharing with you, like the last couple weeks have not been like the typical normal 40-hour work week. It's involved work travel, and it's been 60 and 65-hour weeks back and forth. And one of the things that's kind of come up too is that, if you throw yourself full into a job, and then I sit here and I say to myself, okay, so when the time comes when I decide to go ahead and make the leap, I know I'm going to throw everything I possibly have into making my coaching practice successful. But the thing that kind of comes up too is like, well, how do I honor the commitment about taking a break or taking a vacation when that time comes? And I'm not sitting here going, well, what else can I be doing? Because right now, that's kind of the mindset with my full-time job, is that even if I'm quote unquote off the clock, there still is that moment about, well, what else do I need to be doing? Do I check this email and so on and so forth? So I'm kind of wondering if maybe you can share a little bit about how you've been able to kind of not only just honor the commitments with your business, but honor the commitments that you have with, vacation time and family time, to hold them with fidelity.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's the other side of that, right? So it's like, okay, I'm in transition or whatever, and okay, how do I honor my business? But now it's like, well, how do I actually be present and enjoy time off when,
Yep.
I want to be growing my business, and it's like, well, maybe I could be using that time, especially with someone like you who has a full-time job, right? So that's what you're asking, right? How do I be fully present and enjoy those things away from the business? Yeah, and so just like, I'll go back to the schedule, because it's something that's more black and white, but then it's how we view it and it's our perspective of it. It's when I talk about our business hours, you hear me talking about that stuff a lot. It's knowing what we need to or want to accomplish in a certain time frame, and then having the time frame where we know when we're done with it. Like the old saying, if you will, or maybe not the old saying, but the famous saying, there's a time to work and a time to play, if that's even the saying, right?
Yep.
Right. So it's the same type of thing. So it's like, when is it time to play? And that's just as important as when is it time to work. And in fact, when, at least, and you asked me, like, how do I honor that stuff, is like what I've learned about myself, and this would be, for each of us listening, it would be understanding how you work and how you operate, because everyone does operate differently. And so I realized that in order for me to be fully present, like with time away from work, whether it's just I'm stopping work for the day and I'm done and I'm just going to hang out with my son or just do whatever, or like last week I'm taking Friday off and I'm heading to Maine and that's it, and I'm just going to be there for 3 days and not do any work stuff. In order for me to do that, if I don't work hard and if I don't accomplish what I need to accomplish when it's my work time, and I leave with things unfinished, that's when I don't enjoy it as much.
Okay.
Right? Because it's like almost like, I slacked off, so if I spent time and I'm like, oh, I've got an hour off, and because sometimes it's when you're operating at a high level and you're really getting stuff done, like when I have full days and I've got clients and I've got an hour break in between clients, it's like that. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I just want to sit down and be like, whew, I just had 4 hours of calls. Let me just like sit for a little bit and to rest my brain. You know what I mean? But on a lot of days, especially when there's no extra time, if I'm taking a day off, it's like I hang up that call after 4 hours of calls, and it's like the next hour I've got to like follow up and get some food, and I've got to just be on, and then it's like, okay, then I got another 2 hours of calls. So it's making sure and knowing that staying productive and doing what I need to get done, and that involves me knowing what I need to accomplish in that amount of time. There are obviously things that don't get done. Like maybe I need to follow up with more people. Maybe I need to do a few other things. But the things that need to get done by that time frame get done. And that's do you know what I mean by when I'm saying that?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of to-dos, right? And they're not all going to get done before you go away, as an example. But which ones are time sensitive? Like that's why I say with my weekly event. Like when I leave on a Friday, it's like Fridays are my day where I send my email out to everybody. I put my call recording stuff I post it in my Facebook page, in my group. And in order to do that, I've got to get it edited up on YouTube, up on my site as well. So like those are the things that I do usually on Friday. But if I'm gone on Friday, like I've got to get that done on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that I can't leave without doing. Like I can't bag that stuff because those are required things. So if I have all that stuff written down and I put that into my schedule just like I would a client, and when I accomplish those things, I feel good about myself, mm-hmm. and I feel like I worked hard, and then I feel like I deserve this time off. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And that's how it works for me, and for everyone else. So I want you to think like, oh, if that's not how you work, just figure out, like, ask yourself the question, what would allow me to feel relaxed? What would allow me to be present? What would allow me to feel the way I want to feel, however that is, when I'm gone? I want to be present. I want to enjoy my kids. I want to enjoy my family. What are the things that I know will distract me, or that I think will distract me? What are the things that I think will bother me, that from business-wise, that while I'm gone? And see if you can come up with a solution for those or accomplish them. Sometimes if lately I feel like I've been a little behind on following up with people on Facebook, mm-hmm. with my people who join my group. And it's not like it's a mandatory thing, meaning it's just I welcome people and I send them a private message and say, thanks for joining. How'd you find me? What was your motivation for joining? And then I start conversations with them. And there's a lot of people. So it's like sometimes I get behind. And sometimes if I don't get through, when I get through that, I feel really good about myself, mm-hmm. right? But then there are some times where I don't. And sometimes I feel like, I ask myself those questions. And so then sometimes I'll write people and I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to be out of the office for 3 days, but I just want to let you know, and I'll get back to you, when I get back in the office on Monday. Mm-hmm. And just like those, just doing things like that, to me, make me feel better about leaving the office and being gone for 3 days. Even though those people probably wouldn't even have minded, right? Or wouldn't even have thought anything about it, or wouldn't have expected me to get back to them. But either way, I have to understand what's going to make me feel good.
Yeah.
How's this helping you?
No, it's helping me a lot. Like so I'm taking some quick notes as we're talking and things like that. Like one of the things that I want to actually go back and do is I feel like I need to like honor a schedule, and to really like create a schedule for like what the dedicated working hour times are while I currently have my full-time job. And then to also kind of play around with a vision about what a full work week would look like when that transition actually happens. Because like one of the takeaways I had in what you were sharing is that, there's tasks that we absolutely need to get done, and there's tasks that we would like to get done, and there's tasks that we're just not going to get to. But it's holding that time to say, hey, I've worked really, really, really hard during these weeks and these months and stuff. And so if I work hard, like for me, if I work hard, then I allow myself to play hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's finding those things that will allow you to be present there. It doesn't mean when I'm away, like I'll check my email, right? I'll check my Facebook group and approve members that have requested to join. I'll do little things like that. I'll find times where it's just a downtime where I check it quick, and there's a few people I can respond to and say, hey, thanks so much, or yeah, that works. You know what I mean? So it's like I'll still do little things like that. But any like even this last weekend I was up in Maine, and like my son got up we were in the tent. We slept in a tent, and he was up at like 5 a.m. had to go to the bathroom, and he couldn't fall back asleep. I couldn't fall back asleep. So no one else was up. So he's like on the iPad playing next to me at 5 in the morning, just playing games. And I'm lying there, and I'm like, you know what? I want to follow up with people. So I lie in bed, next to him for like an hour and a half, and I followed up with people on Messenger.
Nice.
Right? And I quote, worked for an hour and a half, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like, you know what? I'm like, it was just, it didn't feel bad. I was like, oh, I shouldn't be working right now. But it's like, I felt good about it. I even felt better about myself because I'm like, well, I got an hour and a half of follow-up in. And maybe that will turn into a new client when I get back,
Sure.
So it's like you can find those things, but as long as you understand and make it good in your head, it's going to help you feel better about what you're doing.
What I heard, it was brilliant. I loved listening to both of you and your takeaways, John, on that. What I heard that came up was values. And I realized that when I went from solopreneur, from entrepreneur to solopreneur, I realized I had to look at my value system, that I couldn't bring what I was doing before to this because I would burn myself right out. So I had to look at what's important, what do I want to achieve, what's my end goal, how do I want it to look, and because you can be all over the place when you're working alone, as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard, Jeff, that was great was your values, what you valued. You valued that when you went on vacation and just worked midweek, you valued what you wanted to get done and what needed to be done, but you also valued your time to not bring it all with you, but to sort of a metaphorically bring a little backpack with you rather than a huge suitcase of your work with you. And
yeah, absolutely.
So that's something that's so important to look at is what is my end goal for the weekend and what is my end goal for my job, and I liked how you said this absolutely has to get done. I'd like this to get done, and I'm just not going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's when you go back to what I was saying with John, like the schedule. You need the schedule. How about this? I'm thinking of this as I'm saying this. The schedule becomes your boss.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
Right. So we don't have a boss, so we set the schedule, and the boss, like today, the boss tells me at 3 o'clock I'm done with my business because I get my son and I'm with him the rest of the night.
Yep.
And could I have a client or could I do some business when I have him? Of course, but it's like, well, I don't get to see him like all the time. Or he's in school or whatever. Now he's off for the summer. It's like, but every Tuesday, 3 p.m., I'm done. My boss says, get out of the office, be with your son.
Yeah.
And spend the next, 9 hours with your son and do nothing else but be a dad. And it's so, like, every Tuesday, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it's great. And you know what? If I'm downstairs cooking and he's just, up in the shower, you know what? I may check my email. I might check my Facebook group to approve some people or just, you know what I mean? See if there's anything out there. Someone, just to stay up on top of things.
What's the difference when you do it that way, and because you're choosing, or if you're driven like, I've got to do this, I've got to get this done, even though I want to be with my son, I've got to do this, I've got to get this done. There's a whole big difference of that, and that's, I think, the difference of being highly successful and highly productive versus killing yourself, burning yourself out. I think that's an important thing for us to all know.
Yeah, and I think it's the philosophy behind it. It's those things that I'm not like thinking the whole time, oh, I've got to get back to this person, or oh, I've got to check my email for this, because then it becomes like it's on my mind.
Yeah.
If that's the case, like there's been times where it's been 3 o'clock, whatever, he comes over, I get him from school, and it's like, oh, I know I have to get back to this person, and it's like, hey, listen, buddy, I need 10 minutes. Let's start your homework. I need 10 minutes to, finish this up or wrap this up. Because I know if I don't wrap this up, even though I'm going a little bit over, if I don't wrap this up, it's going to be on my mind the whole night.
Right. And then that's the piece about being present in the moment.
Yes. And so once I do that, I can be present. And it's just, you know what? It's a little bit more time, but it's like I know this is the one thing that needs to get done.
Yeah.
So those are distinctions.
Yeah, that's great. I love the schedule is my boss.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like that too, actually, because it's the only way, and we've got to honor it,
Yeah.
So
Well,
let me open up to either one of you. Like we can continue on, ask another question, but keep it open.
just one quick comment, Jeff, and that is like when in our group coaching, when we've talked about how we kind of break up or allocate our hours, where there's the marketing, the follow-up, the coaching, the admin time and stuff, like, because I'm so type A and concrete sequential, and if I'm gonna honor my value in that, like that kind of breakdown would help me, right? To say, look, here's where the dedicated time is for this and stuff, and what you've said before on calls too is like, we have our working hours and we hold them. We don't bend them when someone's like, well, I can't meet you at this time. Well, I have this time, and this time, because otherwise we're all over the place. So that's really helpful. Any advice or guidance around getting past like the whole notion about being perfect when it comes to like building the website, building content, putting a post out there? I just kind of feel like that kind of stuff has been surfacing for me lately, just with other stuff that's going on, and I just kind of maybe a little help in terms of like getting past that whole perfection concept.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jeff,
Go ahead.
Can I offer one thing to John on this one?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay. John, I'm so there with you. It is not even funny.
Okay.
It's not.
I'm laughing because it's common. Okay.
Funny. So the shift I got is someone said to me, okay, when you were a kid, did you just stand up and walk from crawling? And I had 2 kids and I taught them how to walk. And so it was, whoa, corner of the table, going to hit the head, different things. It was a long process, but such a joyful process to when they finally walked on their own without my fingers or without going from chair to table to chair or whatever. So think of for me it worked, and I'm a perfectionist or a recovering perfectionist, is, the wobble is good too. That's where you learn, is in the wobble, where, or if you fall down, you get back up and you go, I'm not going to do it that way, or whatever. So just the metaphor of learning how to walk from crawling was great.
I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, yeah.
So when you fall, it's okay. You'll get back up.
So, being able to remind yourself then, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Reminding yourself that, I have to learn how to walk first, right?
And then we ran, and then we did all the other things we do. But we had to get that basic piece down first of going from the crawl to the stand up and walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say along those lines, too, it's, well, number one, what I've learned, here's what I've learned. Perfection doesn't get you paid.
Yeah.
Right? Perfection's not going to get you paid, because perfection's going to keep you inside behind the scenes. Bottom line is it's paralyzing you, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's not bringing you to action, which is putting the course out, putting the email out, putting the call out, doing the, just starting something. So if you want to get paid, it's like you've got to get it out there. And then the only way, what I've learned is I've got to trust myself that I'm not going to put out anything that's crap. So again, this is where it could be different for everybody. So in other words, I don't know, you per se, like, I'm getting to know you, John, right?
Right.
And same thing with Janny, but like, so for someone who's listening to this, for instance, right, I don't know how you are, so in other words, if you've done some stuff before and it's been, as my dad would say, half-ass, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like you just did enough to get by, and you knew you cut corners, and then you get called out on it, or just things crumble because of that. Be wary of that. But if like if you've got a track record of like, yeah, you put out good stuff, you know what I mean? Like your worst is most people's best type of thing. Right, so I've learned to trust that it's like, you know what, I've never put out anything that hasn't been, has there been a spelling error? Has there been, a thing here and there? But it's like, I've put out great stuff because I pay attention to detail. I'm thorough. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I've learned to trust that that's how I roll. So yes, this might not be exactly like I want it yet, but you know what? It's good enough because I just got to get it out there. And I found that when I just get it out there, that's when things start moving along.
That's so true. If you just get it out there, it starts moving along.
I've just got to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell people, like with the event and things like that, like people are like, oh, I'm writing the content now. I'm writing the content for the event. And I'm like, is the event booked? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you got to book the event first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The event comes first. Filling the seats comes first or second. Book the event, fill the seats, and then figure out the content. Because now you've got like real pressure. Now you're actually writing the content for actual people and for an actual event versus if you just write the content first, the content typically never gets written because it's never good enough. Right? It's like, oh, I think I'm going to revise this. It's like free offers, right? The free offer is never good enough. So it never gets out there.
Yeah.
But it's like, just get the free offer done and just see if someone actually downloads it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, maybe it is bad, but it's like, all right, well, let's get a good title and get people downloading it. And then at some point, hopefully you get some feedback that, wow, this is a really great thing. And then that's all you need is one person to say that and be like, great, it's awesome.
Yeah. Right, because I just wrote that down too about getting the free offer done because you never get any feedback on it if it's not done.
Yeah. So it's and that's just and then the other piece to it too is asking yourself, I like to say this, like what is this perfection or this perfectionistic modality here? What is this protecting me from?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times we have this idea of perfection and what something should be or what we want it to be, and yet subconsciously we don't really believe that it could ever be like that, or maybe that it will ever actually happen. And this could be in any area of our life, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore essentially if you talk it out, it's like, so basically you're going after this ideal that you don't believe can ever actually happen. Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
A lot.
So it's like, and the thing of it is, it's a giant contradiction. It's like, so you're a perfectionist, but do you believe perfection is possible? And most people will say no. It's like, so what? So you're going after something that you don't believe is possible. So what that tells me is that you're kind of pretending and going through the motions and just keeping yourself safe by this ideal. The ideal actually is keeping you safe from putting it out there because you don't believe it's going to be successful. So why not set such a huge expectation and make it have to be so perfect so that you never actually have to realize this failure?
Yeah, you're right. Perfection is the biggest fear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Total fear. So when I realized that perfection was fear, and I don't like being fearful, threw that one out.
John, what is that doing for you?
It's just hitting the nail on the head, right? What I can say is that especially with the last couple of weeks with how busy things have been at work, and while there is so many hours in the day, and we've talked about we find time for what we believe to be important, yeah, because it's like, all right. So yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of time the last few weeks, but you know what? Not moving on the free offer or not moving on the website is just, it's holding me back, right? It's not where I need to get to. And why is it holding me back? Because in the limited time that I've had, I'm trying to be perfect instead of just getting it done. And I just need to get it done. I mean, there was something that one of Lynn's emails had come out, and she was like, websites change. Content changes and information changes, and you're not going to get it right on the first time, but you got to get it out there. And and that's kind of what's getting brought up for me right now.
You just get it out there. It's about action. Like, entrepreneurship is all about action.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally, it's all it is. And the next time you've got a course or an event or anything like that, like I was saying, it's just, you get the idea, you put it together, you throw it out there, and you see what happens. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean it's going to be a success, but you've got to, that's the only way it will ever work.
Yeah.
It's like I'll work with some of my clients, and I'm like, okay, well, you want to get in front of people, you want to do some live stuff, well, try meetup.com. You guys have heard me talk about that, and so it's like, we'll just go on after we hang up the phone and set up your first meetup and have one in a couple days from now. And it's like, people will freak out, rightly so, 100% rightly so. I can completely empathize with that. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, what do we do? Well, yeah, we can definitely guide you, and I'll help people, guide them through that. But then at some point, it's just like, well, let's do it and see what happens. And you're never going to be fully prepared, and let's prepare you the best we can. But entrepreneurship is the best personal growth program you could ever run yourself through, because it pulls out every fear and belief that holds us back that we have. It will surface everything.